All right, I apologize for that. We've lost him here. Again, now almost 40 minutes after the hour, we're keeping track of these various developments, and a number of news organizations that have seized on developments in the Keystone State that have some, not all, calling the state, and thereby extension, this presidential race to Joe Biden, that he has now amassed enough electoral votes to be named the next president of the United States. Let's go to Bret Baier, Martha MacCallum.
The Fox News decision desk can now project that former Vice President Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania and Nevada, putting him over the 270 electoral votes he needs to become the 46th president of the United States.
Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States, who stated in this process, "I will never give up fighting for you and our nation," will be denied a second term. That has not happened since 1992 and President George H.W. Bush. Keep in mind, the Trump campaign is in the midst of waging legal challenges in several states, but the path is clear for the new president-elect.
The states will all need to officially certify the vote. In the middle of a pandemic, almost 150 million Americans voted, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will receive the most votes of any presidential ticket ever.
Senator Kamala Harris will be the first woman and the first woman of color to become vice president of the United States. President Trump garnered 5.5 million more votes than he did in 2020 than he did in 2016, and closed the gap in the final days after barnstorming the nation. Whether he chooses to concede or decides to wait until these legal challenges play out is yet to be seen.
This is a moment. This is a moment that had been a long time coming. Joe Biden running for president. This is his third time. The third time is the charm for former Vice President Joe Biden. 47th vice president. He becomes the 46th president and now is president-elect. We begin with Bill Hemmer at the Billboard once that is all officially certified. Bill.
Yeah, and a late good morning to both of you on this Saturday morning, just a tick before 11 o'clock or noon Eastern time. Joe Biden at 290, Donald Trump at 214. So what was breaking overnight? What has broken so far today? Not a lot in Nevada. I'll get to that in a moment, but some breaking here in Pennsylvania with the vice president taking a half-point lead, 49.7 over 49.2 to Donald Trump. State law in Pennsylvania requires a recount if you're at 0.5% or less, and that's where we are. So perhaps you get a recount, maybe you do not if the lead for Joe Biden continues to grow. At daybreak earlier today, this marker right here, the difference, 34,458. At daybreak, that was 28,800. We just had another dump from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's here in Allegheny County in the western part of the state that was able to give Joe Biden more of an edge that he was looking for. He's been getting about 60% of that late mail ballot count, and he added to his numbers a short time ago. Here in Philadelphia, we'll see how this goes throughout the day. Guys, we've been talking for days now about how you win elections in Pennsylvania. If you're a Republican, you have to keep the margins lower in Philadelphia and lower in Pittsburgh. If you're a Democrat, you have to drive those numbers up. Joe Biden has done that in the year 2020. Philadelphia, these collar counties here, here's a very good example. Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Why is this so significant? It's a bellwether county. It's been razor tight for the past several elections. In fact, in 2016, here's where it was. Right on the margin, 0.5%. 2012, very close with Barack Obama on the ballot, about a point winner in that county. Now in 2020, you see what Joe Biden and the Democrats have done. They've increased his margins in locations like Bucks County, the suburbs just outside of Philadelphia. I'll pop around here to Montgomery County. You see the difference of the margin, 2-1 Biden over Trump. Chester County, similar, close, not as impressive as Montgomery, but still very good for the blue team. Delaware County, you see, meets his numbers yet again. Democrats knew if they were going to win Pennsylvania and its 20 electoral votes and take that state back from Donald Trump and the Republicans, this is where they were going to do it. And over here in Pittsburgh, they were going to do there as well. There were 3 counties in Pennsylvania that Donald Trump flipped. from Barack Obama's day in 2012 to 2016. Here on the map, they're barely perceptible. I want you to watch here, Northampton, and here and up in Erie County. Watch it now. In 2020, it is blue, and so is this. It's a blue-collar area right along Lake Erie. This was sought after by both campaigns, and at the moment, Joe Biden outperforming Donald Trump by a percentage point. That's not to say that the Republicans did not do well at finding their voters and turning them out. All over this map, you can find locations throughout the rural parts of Pennsylvania, and you can see where Republicans did very well in finding their voters, getting them to the polls or getting them to vote early. I think the significance of 2020, Brett and Martha, will be found in how the Democratic Party capitalized on mail-in ballots. They knew where their voters were. They got them through the post office, they got them through the mail, and they got them to return those ballots. That was an aggressive part of the DNC, and they were successful there in Pennsylvania. Quick look at Nevada. Again, it's still early out in Nevada. This is our starting number at 22,657. We have now called the 6 electoral votes for Nevada. Joe Biden holds a 2-point lead in the 6 electoral votes from Nevada in combination with Pennsylvania. Puts him over the top comfortably at 290. Brett, Martha.
Thank you, Bill. Bill Hemmer at the board.
We said from the beginning that Joe Biden as a candidate was not Hillary Clinton, and he is outperforming and will get the most votes and will become the 46th president of the United States. Please stay tuned to Fox News Channel and this Fox station for continuing coverage of this story. I'm Brett Baer with Martha MacCallum in New York.